going to be sharing how I got started loving reptiles. So it started about a year and a half ago that I loved reptiles. I always thought that reptiles were interesting, not to the point of loving them to where I am now, but I mean, I don't say I really loved them, like started having appreciation for them until I got like probably 11. But let's see, at our other house, not the other house, the previous house before the last house, it was in the city, and you know, occasionally I would walk outside and I'd see a little green lizard running up the house, and I was like, oh cool, it's a green lizard. And I wouldn't try to catch it because I was scared of them, but I was like, oh, it's a green lizard. But then as I got to, when we moved to the other house, the house before this house, then I started watching videos and found out that keeping reptiles and breeding them actually got really popular. So that's when I started to want something to breed of my own. And you know, grasshoppers are all over the place, so that was my gateway animal to loving. They're not like as popular, definitely not as popular as dog and cats are, keeping them, and even hamsters, ferrets, keeping those, but keeping reptiles is interesting. You know, it's not like keeping a dog or a cat where you gotta groom them, you gotta feed them and give them water. Of course you gotta feed them and give reptiles water, and you gotta give them a bath, you gotta take them out to go potty outside, unless they're house trained. But reptiles are actually a lot easier than dog and cats. I should say they're a ton easier. I used to have a cat, and we only saw her 3 times a week, not very often. She always used to hide under this chair in the corner of her living room. But that was at the other house, and so I was like, I want something to breed of my own, and because it was so popular all over YouTube and everything. So I went outside and I was looking around, and then I saw some ladybugs, and I was like, I don't really want to breed ladybugs. And then I saw grasshoppers, and I did research and everything about them, and I was like, reptiles is interesting, so I'll just do that. So I got a few, reptiles, I said grasshoppers, and I was like, I'll just get a few grasshoppers and try them out. Well, I did hatch grasshoppers out. I did have little babies, and I let them go out in the wild. You know, I saw my biggest one, which is a locust, actually. I had a locust. It would stick its abdomen down the ground, because that's how they lay eggs. They dig a hole with their abdomen, stick the abdomen down, and then they lay the eggs, and then they cover them back up with their claws. They take their claws, and it's really adorable. They cover it back up like that. But, you know, what I did was I just left the eggs there, and then they hatched a few weeks later, and I let them go outside. So somewhere there are probably grasshoppers that I bred back at our other house. Somewhere. Anyway, and then actually one day I was tending my grasshoppers, and I looked up on our laundry room window by our carport, and I saw a green lizard, and I was like, I've been watching this reptile YouTube channel for a while, probably a year before that, and I looked up and I was like, oh, it's a green lizard, and I was like, oh, I want it. So I picked it up, and it really just let me have it, and I just put it in this little tote. Really, it was just a little tote, and I put it in there, and it lived for a year and a half, and that's when I got, actually it lived, it was probably a year to 6 months, 6 months to a year, that I kept it, and then I wanted more reptiles, so I got my second lizard. Actually, I had a lizard before Lumpy. His name was Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson was my second one, and it was an anole lizard. My first one was an anole. My second one, Mr. Wilson, was an anole. And I kept 2 of them together, Mr. Wilson and Geico, my 2 anoles. And I kept them together, and Mr. Wilson passed on, and Geico was left on. You know, he was still there. And that's what I wanted more. So I got a fence lizard, and that was the best lizard I've ever had, I think. Yeah, it's probably the best one. I loved that lizard. I took care of it and everything. And one night I was like, this thing's big, and he's scary, actually. Well, I wouldn't say he's scary, but he was big, and he wouldn't eat. He didn't eat, and I just dropped crickets down in there, and I always saw the crickets in there. I was like, should I let him go? Should I let him go, or should I keep him? And I'm so glad I kept him. It was an amazing experience for the time I had him. And then when we moved on to this property, and I had a few anoles with when I had Lumpy, my fence lizard, I had him. So I had, like, let's see, one time I had 4 anoles and 1 fence lizard. That was a great time. And then we moved on to this property, and back at our other property we had well water, which lizards can drink well water, it's fine. The well filters out all the chlorine and the fluoride and all that stuff. They can't have the bleaches. And, and then we moved here, and I just thought, well, every place is well water. And I fed it to them, and unfortunately they all died. So that was the end of them. Unfortunately, I was devastated for a week. Literally, no joke. I was devastated for a week. And then I was like, well, what do I do now? But in that time, I got a few more anoles, and I just had them. And then I started wanting to get into more exotic reptiles. And that's when I got my first leopard gecko. His name was Pudge. I wish I had pictures of all my lizards, but I don't. So that's when I had Pudge, and I still didn't know about the water at this point. And I was like, so my lizards died, and I was like, why did they all die? My Lumpy and the other green one. I was like, why did they die? And then I got the leopard gecko, and he died too. And I was like, what in the world am I doing wrong? I kept them alive for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And they just died suddenly. This probably happened 6 or 7 months ago. Maybe even 8 months ago. But I was like, what am I doing wrong? And then I found out the night after he died that they cannot have city water or county water. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I went through a time where I didn't have any reptiles. I just kept my empty 10-gallon tank and my tote in the shed, and the shed up in the front of the property. And then that's when I wanted to try a reptile again, and then I got, let's see, what was his name? Oscar. That's when I got Oscar, my green anole, and I found him right out by our steps, actually, in this house. I got Oscar, and Oscar was amazing. Oscar got sick. I don't know what from, but Oscar did get sick. He was another green anole, and he got sick, and I was like, well, we don't have any vets near us within 3 hours, probably, that work on reptiles, and I don't know if it'd be worth, but I don't know if we just didn't want to drive 3 hours to a reptile vet, and so I just let him go, and I don't know what happened to him, but maybe he's out in the wild still living, maybe he's dead, who knows, but he's out in the wild because I didn't want to see him die. Because I'm just like that. I didn't want to see him die, so I just let him go out in the wild. And that is when I started wanting a snake. And that is when I got my first snake, almost a month ago. I got my first snake. His name, let's see. I didn't actually name him. I wanted to think of the perfect name for him, so I didn't name him. And then one day he took his body and he slithered right out of the cage, through the lid. He lifted his body with his weight, and he lifted the tank door up, slipped out. That's what we think. And he's either here somewhere, he fell down the air vent. I have a video about this, or he's either outside somewhere. We don't know what happened to him. But that's what happened to my snake. And then my sister wanted to get into snails. So that's when me and my sister got into snails, isopods, and slugs. And we have a few of those. Over there. They like dark places, so we keep them under this bench right here. Maybe you can see it, I'm not sure, but it's over here. Y'all have probably seen it before. But they like in dark places, so we slided their big tub. We slide it under there, and it fits perfectly. And that is when I was like, well, what do I do now? So as a Christmas present, I got my second leopard gecko. The first leopard gecko named Pudge wasn't really my fault because I didn't have no clue that water would hurt them. And then I took I got my leopard gecko, and he's still alive today. He's right over there. Hopefully he will be. But that was part of my Christmas present. And that is when I got my 2 other reptiles that y'all don't know about yet. They are green anoles, but y'all don't know like what they look like and everything. But maybe I'll do a video on that, maybe not. But they're actually breeding right now. I've seen them breed, so soon I'm going to take them apart and put the male in another bin, and let the female lay eggs and everything. But a video will be coming out about that, so I hope you'll enjoyed on seeing my reptile adventure and how I got started with loving reptiles. And I hope you'll enjoyed this video. And key point, don't use city water or county water in your reptiles enclosure because it will kill them. But I hope you'll enjoy this video, and we'll see you on the next adventure.